Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first event this semester. I hope you guys are doing well. Today, we're going to be going over the basics of tech interviewing, and the event will be broken up into two sections, or a few sections. So we're going to go through like the application process and resume basics, and then we'll do a resume workshop with hopefully some of our eBoard members who have showed up. Lydia's already here. Hopefully Matt, oh, there he is. Matt and a few other members will show up later, and then we'll have about like 30 minutes for you guys to like talk to them, and just like talk about like interviewing and maybe do like a resume review if you guys are comfortable with that, and we'll go from there. So let's get started. So here's the timeline of tech interviews. It used to be a little bit more clear. So typically applications would open up in like, August, September-ish, and then you do your online assessments in like October. And then interviews would come around then, depending on how well you do. And offers would come maybe sometime, a few weeks after your interviews. But now with like more, certainly the last few years, it's been a little bit more competitive. So what you'll see now is more of like, all these competitive internships like Google, Facebook, those will open earlier usually. So that could be like June, maybe even like in the middle of summer. And then your online assessments will just come like sometimes as soon as you apply. So for example, like Cisco, as soon as you hit the like submit application button, they'll send you the online assessment. You have like 2 weeks to do it. And that's, just on your own time. It'll give you like 3 hours. And invitations to interview will come pretty much whenever they're available. So let's talk about a resume. What you want to have for pretty much any tech resume is your education, relevant experience, and skills. That's pretty much just general resume stuff. And then optional is relevant coursework, leadership, extracurriculars, if you have any like club activities, or if you're doing anything on the side, that's where you'd put it. Honors and awards, you could put this with education if you're on like the dean's list or on like a scholarship. And interests, these are optional, I think more towards like research opportunities. You'd want to put interests, so you're doing something you want to do. Or if you just want to put it in there just so people will think you have like a little bit more of like a personality within tech, that would be nice. And of course, general tips, make it look nice, add any links that are relevant. And if you go to careers, 3es.com, I can't even see it, .org. Yeah, .org, you'll see some examples. Okay, in terms of contact info, typically you want to have your email, webpage, LinkedIn, GitHub, and phone number. So webpage is kind of optional. I don't have one, so I don't put one there. And for your GitHub, more for like software developers, but if you store stuff with like your design or anything else online, this is a good place to put it, because then all your projects are in one place. They can see what you have. And I think LinkedIn, I think they let you customize your links. I don't know if it comes like originally customized, but customize your link so it fits in on your resume without being too cluttered, something reasonable for them to type up. And a little bit about your email. I personally think that you should start your own like developer email, just like for professional stuff. So once you graduate, they're not just sending stuff to your NYU email, and then they'll keep all your like recruiting stuff in one place. It's just really, really nice, and it makes you seem a little bit more professional. And sometimes companies don't like it when you put your school email there, but that's kind of like case by case.
Yeah, and then about your email, you can also customize your NYU email if you want to use it. So you can make it something a little more professional, with your first name dot your last name, if you don't want to start your own, developer email.
Yep. So a little about education. Typically, standard stuff: institution, your major, minors, GPA. Specifically for like FANG or like higher, companies, you'd want to only list it if it's over 3.5, and that's just like the way they do it. If you don't have a 3.5 at the moment, like it's okay, just don't list it. They kind of assume, whatever you have. Make sure you have your graduation date easily seen, especially if you're graduating soon. So they know like when you should be available for a full-time role, because that is what they're ultimately trying to get you for. And optionally, you can have relevant coursework. So this would include anything that's like relevant to the role you're applying for. So you wouldn't want to include like your text and ideas class or your, freshman writing seminar thing. And of course, scholarships, awards, activities you do around school. So you could put Tech NYU. And these can also go into separate section, especially for activities. If you want to like elaborate a little bit more on it, you can put it in like a separate section down below. So here's like a little sample from like UIUC. See graduation date here, and all this like, stuff. And move on to the experience section. So again, you want to put down stuff that's relevant to what you're trying to do. So if you're looking for a software development role, you want to put in things that are relevant to, software development. You want to put your like restaurant job or, whatever else you might have done. And important parts are, obviously the company, organization, what your title was, how long were you there, what did you do, what did you accomplish. And it's really important to have like quantitative measures of what you achieved, so people know like you're not just saying like, I made this, like, what it do, how did it affect like the product, what was like your contribution to the company, and of course, what were your responsibilities? Do you like meet with managers? Who would you meet with? How often? You can put that in there just to fill it out. So little samples like I accomplished such and such as measured by this metric. You could do like a percentage or like how many viewers or how many people use the site by using such technology. Skills and technologies, these are pretty important, I think, in terms of design and software development. So you want to go for programming languages that you're familiar with and learning. So anything you've done at school, like Java, Python, like pretty popular ones, you want to list those towards the top because that's what a lot of people use. Any tools you work with, so Figma, which we learned last semester, you can put that up there, or get any industry standard tools that you think would be very useful. Go ahead and list those. And right now, cloud-based services are really hot. AWS is pretty much used by like a lot of companies. So if you have like time, Amazon has like, they offer courses on this, so you could just learn about a few of their instances and how to use them. And these are other services that are also out there. APIs, libraries, especially if you get a little bit further into software development, put these out there so like you're a little bit more technologically mature. And you want to list them by order of familiarity, just so people know like this is what you're probably good at. And it's okay to put down stuff that you're just learning. So like last semester we did HTML, CSS. If you're not like, we're not great at HTML, CSS, but you can put those up there just so like the basics, and shouldn't be too difficult for you to learn like anything else that's a little bit more advanced or niche for whatever you're trying to do. And of course, if you put anything on that list, you should expect to be asked questions about it, how you used it, how you learned it, any like details about the technologies, like why you choose it, like what are the purposes of it, maybe why you learned it. So if it was for a class or just something you did on the side, that is something you should expect to be able to talk about.
Yeah, and then this, this part is so important because sometimes recruiter will filter by specific skills or technologies. So you really want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success by really trying to show off all the technologies that you've worked with, no matter like if you're currently learning or not.
Yep, definitely. And now we move on to projects. So hopefully, especially in tech, like you want to have your own personal projects or anything you've done at like a hackathon or whatever else you're doing. And you just want to include some details about what you've used, especially technologies such as, these are just some examples, like maybe you implemented Firebase as your part of the project, and what was it for? And then deployed, depending on like what the project is, and of course, just be a little bit more specific about your contribution to the project. And of course, you want to be very familiar with your projects. Typically, interviewers will ask you, about why'd you start the project? What were you trying to solve with the project? Like, what were your motivations for it? Like, why'd you come up with this? Why didn't you do something else? Right? And technologies used, this is just how did you like what were your tools to solve these problems, and your difficulties encountered, like what were the problems that you encountered when you were working with it. How'd you go about solving them? Did you ask any people? Did you ask professors, that kind of thing? And a pretty common question about projects is like, if you were to redo it now, like what would you do differently, especially for like older projects? Hopefully you've learned something since then that would help you, do it in a more manageable fashion or like a maybe more efficient way. Yep. And for projects, pretty much all the stuff is good to go. I would avoid homework assignments, especially from like data structures, intro to programming, CSO, OS, anything where it's like a set project that the professors like, they give you a certain guideline for, because then everyone's doing it. Like you don't want to put your binary search tree on your project list. Like everyone's done that. But if you're in like a project-based class, such as iOS development, agile, software development, one of the electives, those are all fair game because you're doing something that's more unique. So you shouldn't worry about that too much. Yep.
Yeah, and then this semester we're starting a side project initiative. So we know how important projects are to a resume, especially if you're starting out and you don't have too much experience yet. A great way to get experience is through projects. And I know sometimes it's difficult to find, like, come up with an idea or like stay motivated or keep yourself accountable. So we're thinking if you guys have a specific field or a specific idea you guys want to pursue, you can tell us and we can try and find a course or an online resource that can help you work through that. And we can meet weekly or whenever you want, just to keep you accountable.
Yep. So a little bit more about the interview process. So typically interviews are broken up into at least two sections. So first you'll have a behavioral. That's typically just going to be, like a recruiter. They'll ask you questions about why do you want to work for the company. So maybe some questions about your resume. And the recruiter might not be a very technical person, so you shouldn't have to worry about any runtime structure, any of this stuff. Runtime, data structures, any details. Like that's not a big problem here. So this will be like a 30-minute phone thing, or maybe over Zoom. It'll be pretty casual. So you use the STAR technique. Karina, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so this is a commonly used technique for behavioral interviews. Like sometimes, well, oftentimes in behavioral interviews, they'll be like, tell me about a time you showed leadership or when you failed or anything like that. So for these commonly asked questions, you want to practice using the STAR technique. I forget the acronym. I think it's something like situation. So you set up the context for the problem, and then you talk about the tasks that you had to solve. I don't remember those, but basically you want to say what you did and then the effect that it had. So like response, I think is R, something like that. So it's like the template we mentioned before, accomplished X by Y, using Z. It's basically a different way of saying that. So you want to use your resume bullet points as a guide for your responses.
Yep. And the important thing for technical interviews is that you will want to be very familiar with your basic data structures. So linked lists are very popular in interviews, binary trees, everything else. They'll ask you like pros and cons. Why would you choose one or the other? Yep. And then, so good way to practice, you could do LeetCode or you could do binarysearch.com. This is a really great interview site or practice problem site. You basically can work with your friends, you set timers, you can choose topics, and it's kind of collaborative, but also like kind of like competing with each other. I think it's a really good way to prepare. I've been doing it with my friends for the last like 2-3 months. It can be pretty fun, very stressful, but definitely recommend it. And when you're going through the interview, make sure you talk through your thought process. So it's not as important to always like come to a solution that passes all test cases. The most important thing is like having the soft skills to explain to them, like, or just show them like this is how you would communicate when you run into problems at work. Like, how are you going to ask questions? What are the clarifications you're thinking about? What are your concerns? And don't forget edge cases. Try to, these are kind of like the first things you want to ask, like what if, there aren't enough data members or anything else that you might think of in the problem. These are pretty specific. So just try to look for things that show you're being like creative and like thinking critically. And sometimes they'll just say like, you can ignore this. So it varies. And here are some resources for like sample resume stuff. You don't have to copy these down. We'll share the slides later. So, don't worry about not being able to click anything. Okay, that about does it for that. How long did that take? 18 minutes, not bad. Okay, now we are going to see if anyone has any questions. Also, we're going to try to put you guys into groups according to like what you're interested in. So Jaylee's here. Okay. So Jaylee and Lydia will be handling design. Matt and is Ivana here? I don't know. No. Okay. And then Matt, Karina, and me will handle anyone in software development. So if you guys could just put down in chat like what you guys are interested in, and we'll try to group you by that. Breakout rooms. Okay, I'm gonna need a minute to assign everybody. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Have fun, everybody.
Hi, sorry I'm really late.
Yeah, no worries. So right now what we're doing is I broke everyone else into like breakout rooms. So it's just design or software development. So I just want to see like what you're interested in. Or we're gonna stay here and just chat if you're interested in software development.
Wait, so you have to pick between design or software development?
Yeah.
Can you put me in whatever design is in?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. Thanks.
Room 2. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
I guess I can stop recording.
It's literally just us again.
Whoa.
Yeah.